biosphere of Earth being stable, that it's not jeopardized unduly, and some who have kind of analysed what the reptilians have been doing or had some kind of interaction believe that this is because the reptilians view humanity as a resource, and they don't want that resource to damage itself or damage the biosphere.
They had about 18 scientists that all had been working on the project, various stages of the project, gathered around a big oval table in the Los Alamos headquarters with Edward Teller, the head of the Atomic Energy Commission, sitting at the head of the table. One of the aliens on the opposite side of the table from my engineering friend put in a white shirt and slacks so he would look less alien, but he still had his alien bigger head, bigger eyes, black eyes. And he was sitting in the conference, and the only people that he could understand everybody else because he was telepathic. And the only way he could communicate, though, was the signs that he had developed with my engineer friend to answer the question. But here's a man, an alien from another planet, sitting in a conference in 1968 in Los Alamos headquarters on the progress of learning how to bridge the gap between the alien technology and ours.
They were going to suggest to the American generals additional technology exchange projects, and I think they were using me as the test guinea pig to take me on board the scout craft, and then they could test my reaction to what I was impressed with and what I wasn't with.
My life changed, and I was never, ever quite the same. So the study itself was not as complete as it could have been. They concluded what they wanted to conclude. One, there was not a threat involved. Two, they weren't the Soviets. Three, the evidence was overwhelming. They were extraterrestrial. Four, there were 4 groups involved, 4 different groups. And they were all humanoid, but they were not human. Only one of the 4 was what we considered to be human. One group out of the 4 looked so much like us. I mean, almost identical to us. They could have put on these guys could have put on a suit and tie. And for the females, because we encountered some of them as well, they could have put on a dress, suit and tie, coat, jacket, sit down with you, next to you in a restaurant, sit next to you in a theater. You'd never know.
Sono persone come noi, che hanno un corpo come noi.
That have a body like ours.
In questi UFO, che io prendo poi quando parlo,
vehicles,
lo prendo in senso largo, cioè anche delle persone che o sono dentro.
He says, I'm using this in a large sense. Or the people are inside the craft.
Ma questo è molto molto difficile pensarlo. Oppure comandano, ma sono distanze enormi. Se si fanno vedere da noi, mica c'è un pianeta che è a 1000 chilometri da noi. Se no a 1000 chilometri ci sarebbero già arrivati.
They make themselves seen and known to people on Earth.
Quindi è molto ragionevole che siano dentro.
So it's probably logical that they're inside a craft instead of coming from somewhere else without a craft.
E quindi sono persone come noi, composte di una parte spirituale, che la chiamiamo anima. Gli UFO, io non ho mai parlato con un UFO, non ho avuto...
He says they would have to have a soul like we do.
Ma che abbiano anche un corpo, devono averlo un corpo.
They have to have some kind of body.
E se no sarebbero angeli.
Otherwise they would be angels.
How can countries, one of which actually borders with the United States, be having UFO visitations by the hundreds when other major nations of our world insist that they are not? And even more importantly, how can these countries' governmental policies, both official and otherwise, be that they never have had UFO or alien contact? The only logical explanation is in fact that governments are willing to lie.
For the past 9 years, I've been researching into the United States government files on what they have on the UFO phenomenon and all sorts of different conspiracies. And I've reached 183,000 pages of government documents on the internet.
There is a political block, what I call a truth embargo, instituted by the government, that they are not ready to formally acknowledge this, quote, presence.
Anything that involved absolute proof, like hardware and bodies, was siphoned off completely into another track.
They just can't allow information to come out overnight so people would be perturbed and actually demand that something be done about it. They stonewall it, deny it, lie about it for, 30, 40 years, and then finally just announce it as if it's fact, and everybody goes, yeah, okay.
It's clear we're dealing with a cosmic Watergate, meaning some few people within major governments have known since at least July 1947, when 2 crashed flying saucers and several alien bodies were recovered in New Mexico, that indeed some UFOs are alien spacecraft.
The government set up Project Blue Book, the Air Force did, in order to investigate this subject on a, you might say, a low level.
Researchers, mostly regular citizens, have proven without a doubt there's an extraterrestrial presence. We're being engaged. The evidence is overwhelming.
And in some cases, you can actually point to where the Air Force explanation completely contradicts what's inside the sighting report itself.
The word UFO is actually a disinformation term that was invented after they knew that they weren't unidentified and they knew they didn't fly. So it's sort of a mind play.
When the first evidence of ET visitation and hardware and so on came along, the U.S. government took the attitude that we couldn't release this to the general public because it had extreme implications for defense. We don't want our enemies to know that we've got one because then they might try to get one. To the extent that we might be able to back engineer the technology, we don't want to tell somebody else that we're trying to do such a thing.
Gus Grissom, who was probably the person I was closest to, felt that they were spam in a can, that the astronauts were just a public relations campaign for a secret military program that was spending much more. The military space program was getting, was a gleaming jewel compared to the junk that NASA was getting at the time.
You can get a certain amount of information out through the large media, but it's very superficial, very brief. That's what we found. The in-depth sort of disclosure of what's really going on, who's behind it, what the agenda is, that is almost always stopped. Or if they try to do it, it gets turned into something ridiculous.
I almost hate the term UFOs because they really aren't unidentified to the people that know what's going on, or the researchers too. But it's what a lot of people that have the answers felt it was safe to come out of the water, so they're putting out their information on the internet, disguised or whatever. But so these other agents, per se, they're scanning all the time to counteract what's being said by other people from Intel that think it was safe to, okay, we can put this out, or they feel like it's the right thing to do now. Enough is enough. Mankind has a right to know type thing.
When I worked for Douglas, I was assigned to the Douglas Skyrocket. They wanted me to wire up a camera out on the wingtip that looked through a quartz window back at the canopy so that they could monitor the pilot to see what he was doing. While I went through the hangar, which was secured, there were 2 gentlemen in there. They introduced themselves. One was Naval Intelligence, the other one was CIA. And I started working, doing my job, wiring up the camera, while they sat around and talked. It became very apparent to me that they were there for that purpose, to talk. They knew about all my flying saucer experiences, all the way from Korea. They told me intelligence, CIA intelligence group, had 3 intelligence digests, flying saucer photographs, witness documentation from all over the world. And they said that I should probably try to get those 3 copies. And that's when I wrote Admiral Freeman. And wasn't able to get the documents, incidentally. But in addition to that, they told me that I should tell people what my experiences have been. And I said, tell everybody you can, because they can't. They were not allowed to talk about it.
There's this curtain of ridicule that's been drawn up around the UFO phenomenon. And as long as that curtain of ridicule holds solid, the scientists will be afraid to contribute anything to